Right, I think we'll start. I just want to say thank you to Bob for being here. He's flown in all the way from Stuttgart. That's not where he's from. He's from the States. He's off to Dublin right after this, so he's a globetrotter. So we're really lucky, I think, fortunate to have him here. So please give a big, warm learning technology welcome to Bob Mosher.
Wow. You are spectacular. I always love when people clap before I've said anything. That's always a good start. Welcome, friends. So good to have you here. Bob Mosher, the co-founder, chief learning evangelist. How's that for a title? Of a company called Apply Synergies. Very excited to be with you for the hour. Well, I get a little animated in my presentations. I was doing a presentation in the Netherlands 2 days ago, and a speaker next door, you trainers in the room may appreciate this, came over, opened the door, and asked me to quiet down. He did that 3 times in the hour and a half I was there, so buckle up, friends. It's going to be something. Little background. September 6th of this year, I celebrated my 40th year in education. 40 years. Some of you in this room haven't been on the earth that long. Oh, well, round of applause. Thank you. I've survived that. Yes. Yeah. So, and why I'm excited about this topic, friends, among many things that I've been blessed to be able to do in my career, nothing has changed me as a learning professional like the topic I'm going to talk to you about now. I am so impassioned about this because, in my opinion, it enables us as learning professionals to do what we are called to do, and that is enable performance. We are not about training. We're not about content. We're not about e-learning, LMSs, LCMSs, CMSs, all the messes we have. We're not about any of those things. We're about enabling those that we serve to perform better. And I have tried everything in the history of learning technology and methodology and application to do that, and nothing in all those efforts touches what we'll talk about today, in my opinion. But I got an hour, 59 minutes. So I'm going to do my best to give you as much about this as I can, but at the very end, friends, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of other resources, places, and things you can go to find out a lot more about this. Is that fair? So what I want to be careful about in my introduction is, here's today's discussion, which is not instruction. Just want to be clear there, right? In the hour, my instructional designer's in the room. An hour is tough to do a lot of instruction-type stuff, but obviously I hope you learn things, hope you take away stuff. But my intent is to raise awareness, friends. Challenge you in a number of things in how we design and do learning. And if nothing else, have you leave going, I might want to look a little bit more into this thing and figure out how I might do it better, right? So, ground up, why should we care and those we serve care? Right? My title of my presentation is Doing Workflow Learning from the Ground Up. And the reason we went that way is because, friends, we are at the ground zero, right, with this whole thing. And this change, for all that do it successfully, starts with you first. If you don't get it, if you don't understand the vocabulary, if you are not impassioned about this, I will be completely candid and say it's a rough ride. Because it is counter to how I was taught, to be honest, to design. I have an advanced degree in the States, undergraduate degree in education, taught third graders for 5 years, 8-year-olds. And I got my master's in computer education and adult learning. So that's my pedigree. And I will say in my 6 advanced years of higher ed, I did not see a slide on this topic, let alone a course, a class, or a lesson. So it is a little different than how we go at things, right? So we have to be grounded in why and be able to show others why we deserve an opportunity to do this. So I'm going to stop. Am I too loud? Are you okay? Those by the speakers going, wow, oh my God. You okay? In the back, you good? Okay. Am I going too quick? Because I'm not going to slow down. I don't know why I asked that, because I'm just going to keep going how I'm going. But all right, good. So number 2, what are we creating then? What is this thing? I'm a big vocabulary guy. Huge vocabulary guy, because it ticks me off in our business how we like to invent terms and think about them later. Micro-learning. If I put you all in, how many of you are in here, different rooms and went in and said, what's microlearning, I'd probably get 90 different definitions of it. Now, it's not that I don't mind microlearning, but if we can't define it, how can we inflict it on others? Right? And this is a big deal to me, because you're going to change a paradigm here, friends, and I use that word on purpose. That's a big word. If you're going to do that, you have to understand and be grounded in the definitions and the understanding of things, because you're going to get a lot of questions about this. How's it different than? Why is it the same as? Why are you doing this? And you have to have the pedagogical answer to that to go back with it. So what are we creating is a big deal. And then, of course, shortest part, how are you designing it? And this whole hard skill, soft skill thing. Oh, my gosh. How many of you in here do soft skill training? Raise your hand. Or anything in soft skills? God bless you. All right? I wish we never invented that term, soft skills. Really? Leadership, soft skills. No, it's a hard skill. It's really hard. Leading is really hard. It is not a soft skill. But since we came up with this term, everything below it is mushy, soft, abstract. That is so far from the truth. Ask a leader in the trenches if that's abstract, mushy. No, they do things every day and try hard to be good leaders at a tactical level, right? So I'm going to run at that really hard in this last part of my presentation. Then, of course, next steps. On we go. How you doing? This is the you could leave part. Are you all right? You good? Okay. And by the way, that's totally fine. You paid the price to be here, really. So if this isn't ringing your bell, you are welcome to go, and I won't make fun of you at all. Okay. So why should we care in those that we serve? Raise your hand if you're involved in a skill initiative in your organization right now. Another word, yay, right? This is a big deal in the States, and we're doing this whole thing with skill, and my question is, what the heck do we mean by that? We're throwing it out pretty holistically right now, right? And we're doing reskilling and upskilling. What does that mean, right? If you're going to get money for it, budget, time, design stuff, try to do it. We got to understand what this is, friends. So I want you to do this at your tables for 1 minute. You got 1 minute. With those at your table, define the word skill for me in the context of what you think we're being asked to do here. What do we mean when we say skill to up or re? Ready? 1 minute. Go. Okay, how you doing? You wrap up? Okay, friends, quick question at your table. Raise your hand. How many of you, when you opened your mouth and said what skill is, you all said the same words? Raise your hand. Yeah, well, hey, you got a couple, right? But look around the room, friends. Look around the room, right? This is a big deal to me. And it's even more of a bigger deal to those that have to go through this stuff with us, right? And those that ask us to do it. I'm going to talk about that in a moment, right? Or we have to be free to do things. What were some definitions or words you used around skill? Anyone want to yell out? Sorry? Context. Love that. Skills without that are useless. Right? As my dear friend says, Dr. Conrad Gottfredson, concepts without tasks are useless. Knowledge without context is useless. It really is. It might be entertaining or intriguing, but that's not the business we're in. We're in the performance business. Anything else for skill? Understanding. You have to understand to do a skill. Do something. Love that. But I'm going to combine these two, friends, because I would argue a skill is not understanding. And that's what makes me scared here. Right? We are not tasked to make people skilled. That's what makes me nervous. We're tasked to make them skillful. Sorry? Demonstratable skills, absolutely. Now, I get you have to know to do things. Absolutely know that. But understanding blah, 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 blah is not a skill. Understanding to then perform is a skill. See the difference? Right? Now, again, you'll still teach understanding, but the ends is a combination of the knowledge to do it and then demonstrating to do it. I'm bound in this because I want to have you be able to do the demonstrating part and build for the skillful part. Not get stopped at the skilled part. I was talking to an organization just the other day in Stuttgart, and they were talking about the fact that one of the organizations that was visiting said, well, we give them the class, then we make them demo some stuff, and then we give them a test, and when they do that test, we give them a certificate because now they've mastered it. Wow. That's so bad. Right? I always tell the story. I got an A, that's good in the States, in accounting. I was top in my class. I cannot do your taxes. Because I am skilled in accounting, I'm not skillful at it. See the difference? And that little nuance, friends, you better be prepared to battle for. Because you want to be allowed to help people be skillful, not stop at skilled, which is so unfair to us in what we do. Next, if you've seen this data, how many of you are involved in organizations that things change once in a while? Raise your hand. Yeah, I mean, come on. Anybody here in medical, pharmaceutical, medical? Yeah, it's a rather robust industry right now. And this data, by the way, is pre-COVID. Oh my gosh. Clinical and post-COVID. Remarkable, right? This is the doubling, tripling curve of knowledge, right? As a dear friend of mine in the insurance business told me during COVID, he was a senior leader of a large insurance company, he said, look, Bob, my team, get this, can't train our way out of this anymore. You hear that? He goes, we cannot train our way out of this anymore. We have to have a different mousetrap because for him, if nothing else, the rate of change of information was so fast that there was no training time for anything to pull people out and keep them current. Just that alone, let alone the fact that they might be good at it. So, and by the way, you're going to get all the slides. I see you taking pictures and stuff. I'm going to give you all this stuff after, so be comfortable with that. Lastly, here's my thing. How many of you know that sentence? You guys, this is the skilled problem. This is the skilled problem, not the skillful problem. Right? How dare someone walk in your office and demand 5 days of anything? Right? I wouldn't go to a doctor and say, I want 9 Advil because my arm hurts. I would go in and say, my arm hurts. I got nothing. Right? Because I'm in front of a medical professional who will diagnose my problem, give me the right solution to cure my... But people walk in our offices all the day asking for 9 Advil. This is so unfair. And if you put it with a chart before about information piling up, you get these terrible things. Look at this. Is this over here, right? This is the way we teach in some buckets. We present, we engage, By the way, which of these 5 do you think is our learners' favorites? Which of those 5 do you think learners love? Practice and feedback by 3, 4, or 5x over the others. Look at this class. 5 days, 1,000 PowerPoint slides. You got to go quick. Look at that, right? So guess what won on the left? Guess which of these dominated this? Oh, look at that. And by the way, do this sometimes. It's a kick. Sit in the back of your rooms with those 5 things on the left. Really, every 5 minutes, just put a checkbox of what's going on. You might be surprised at how engaged the classroom might be, right? So look at that poor thing. And by the way, I don't blame the instructor. Look, come on, 1,000 slides. And by the way, this class was really dangerous to people. People died if they didn't perform well. Right? So high stress, right? Here's the problem. We got to get out of this. We have got to get out of the cover it business. How many of you know what an SME is? SME. What is an SME? Subject matter experts. Stop using them. I'm going to talk about them in a minute. They have done more damage to training than I can ever tell you. And they're wonderful. But they have done really hurtful things to instruction. We'll talk about why in a bit. But the problem is, guys, if we're a one-hit wonder, if we're known for training, then that's where we're pigeoned. That's all we got. Right? So you may blame this organization for demanding that course, but the problem is the L&D team positioned themselves as that's what they do. So in a dangerous course where people die, if I'm the SME or whoever, you're covering it. And what do you got to cover it? Well, we have a class, we have e-learning. Then it better be in there. See where this went? Right? So where I'm going today, friends, is we got to get out of this business and get more into and see ourselves and have other people see ourselves as not the L&D department, not the training group. I get yelled at for this. But branding's everything. It really is. Right? My organization, my IDs, instructional designers, are performance consultants. My trainers are performance architects. Notice the pivot. Performance. Right? When you position yourself that way, you're allowed to have more tools in your toolkit than if you're the training department. Right? Okay. Alfred, did you have some? Okay. So, 3 things to start from the ground up then, friends. 3 things. Number 1, you got to get your mindset out of the world of training. You really do. Because no one's going to come asking you for different things if they don't see you differently. So you have to change your mindset from one of training first to one of performance first. Why are you here for 5 days of whatever you just asked for? What brought you in here in the first place? And why 5 days and why training? We're way ahead of the discussion here, right? But here's the problem, friends, and I see people nodding, but here's the danger. If you open up that can of worms and start having the conversation, you better have a different mousetrap to come back with. Because you just broaden that discussion, which is spectacular, but they're also going to say, okay, then what do you got for me outside of training then? That you build, that you help us with. And we have to expand our toolkit into the workflow. Number 2, it's going to take a different design to do it. Who knows Addie in here? God bless you. Right? Let it go, friends. Let Addie go. Got us out of World War II in a great way. Designs training in some remarkable ways, but it is a training design methodology that's terrific. We're not in the training business anymore, though, are we? Right? So we're going to have to expand our domain here. This was rough for me. I was an Addie guy. I had an advanced degree in it. I actually taught a course to undergraduates in it when I was in my master's program. So letting that puppy go was emotional for me. But we are in the performance business, right? Doctors don't use leeches anymore. They've moved on because there's a better mousetrap. But we stay mired, my God. You guys, it drives me crazy. We stay mired in these ways of doing things. As my father said, lipstick on a pig is still a pig. It's my dad, so kind of put it in context, right? But I can't tell you how many places I go around and go, oh, let me show you my new training environment. Lipstick on a pig. Walk in, tables, rooms, chairs, structure up in front. New technology, terrific. New lipstick. I mean, you know, and guys, here, I'm going to be careful because I'm watching your faces. People start getting mad at me thinking, well, Bob, you hate training. I wouldn't be in front of you if I did. But my concern is, as you saw from before, it's the catch-all to everything. And that's so unfair to training. So oh boy, I'm going to cover this real quick and then we're done. Governance and maintenance. You cannot get into workflow instruction and design unless you are prepared to handle the onslaught of maintenance. When you're in the workflow, things change fast. Content will be very different. You won't own all of it. Notice governance. Governance is the domain of managing maintenance. You better be prepared for this wave. It's out there for you now. It hasn't crashed on the beach yet, but it's coming. And it sinks more workflow efforts than you can imagine because we're not prepared for what happens after we deliver that first iteration. And then all of a sudden, half your content changes. What are you going to do? Right? So, let's go. Then we have to redefine the journey. This is where we have to help those who want us to do the skill stuff to understand what skillful is and where it happens. Skillful does not happen back here. We use all these words. That's our vocabulary. We have to use others. I'm going to teach you a bunch today. But we have to move beyond this mastery thing. It's not enough, right? Which of these things should we be measured by? Which of those things should we be measured by? Competency, at least, and keeping up with that, right? We are not in the mastery business, friends, and it's hurt us for too long, right? We are in the competency business. We should be measured by that. And look what happens to learning. You've seen the research, right? See the dark green? The death spiral of instruction? Right? It just happens, you guys. By this afternoon, you won't remember half of what I said or even my name. It's okay, right? I'm just beginning the journey here in this hour. I don't think you're going to get it. I really don't. But that's because that's not how learning happens. You're in a conference center. Miles from where you work, right? So how is this going to ever impact that till you get back there and get into transfer and start trying to do it there? But here's the problem, friends. In so many of our deliverables, we stop here. We got nothing to the right of that dotted line. Nothing. Now we might give them a good book. Who remembers books? Raise your hand if you remember books. You younger people, we used to bind paper between two hard covers. Books, yeah, we put things in, right? No, I used to give people a great book. I used to give people an award-winning book, according to our industry. But that doesn't mean it helped them transfer, or even worse, it helped them sustain. Books are terrible to keep current. Super terrible to keep current. As soon as they walk out the door, that paper is no longer current. What's my governance around that? So we have to get a better thing that helps us with that, and it's this. You are now the performance support workflow learning business first. You're not in the training business anymore. You do that to support the other. Really. This is hard, friends. I get it. But 20 years ago, I stopped being an L&D professional. Stopped. Stopped calling myself one. Stopped labeling myself as one. Because I still do a lot of the stuff that I did as that role, but I had to become and represent and deliver on something very different. And I got into this in a real immersive way, and this happens. See that slide? When done well, 3 things happen to that. See it? What's one thing? One thing. Competency shrunk, on average by half. On average by half, people are competent on the job in half of the time. What else shrunk? Time to mastery. Training. Same thing. Footprint on average is half. And if you would have looked at the other slide, we also teach less. Do you think we overteach? Come on, you can say it. They're not here. Yeah. Guys, when you're a one-hit wonder, you put 1,000 slides in 5 days. I don't have to be a brain scientist to know that's overload, right? But what else do I got, right? So you can teach not only quicker, but less, more focused, right? So there's the 3 changes, and it is an enablement model, not a skill-up model. It is an enablement model, not a skill-up model, as mastery is. And by the way, mastery's still on the chart. How you doing? Watching your faces, you okay? You mad at me yet? You all right? Okay, good. All right, let's go. What are you doing? You're building this. You are building workflow learning, and this is the definition. You don't have to write it down. I'm going to send it to you. But we have to have definitions for words that we share commonly as an industry. This is mine. You're welcome to steal it. I don't care if we adopt it, but I want us to adopt something. There's a key word in there for me, and it's this one. See the while? Because here's the nuance, friends. We got a lot of stuff available in right now, the workflow. In is different than while. Do you see the difference? What's the difference for the learner of something available in the workflow versus while working? What's the difference? Yeah, when I first taught this to a group of IDs years ago, at the end of the instruction, I'm going to show you a bit of it in a moment, she said, but where's practice? This is a steeped ID. I said, well, they're working. It's they do. Yeah, but where do you put the practice? I said, well, they're working while they're learning and practicing. They couldn't get it. She couldn't, honest guys, she couldn't let go of it. She could never let go of the fact of this that we had, and I get it. But again, that's the mindset shift from training to performance, right? How do you do it? Here's your new deliverables, friends. Again, we got to have names, got to have categories. You're going to do targeted learning, and you're going to build digital coaches. We used to call them EPSSs. Who's old enough to remember that acronym? EPSS. And I'm going to say what it is. Not worth repeating. Digital coach is great. Sir. EPSS, Gloria Geary. Here's the problem. Nobody wants one of those. He called it an EPSS, Electronic Performance Support System. Try selling that to somebody. But you want a digital coach? Yeah. I'll take 50 of those. Branding. Guys, I'm telling you, Branding. For 10 years, I tried to sell EPSSs to those that I serve. Digital coach wants hundreds of them. Same thing, by the way. Exact same thing. So, how do we do this? Number 2, what are we creating? There she is. Love this woman. Read her book. See this? Buy it and read it. Buy and read that book. Electronic Performance Support System, 1991. Who was not born in 1991? Raise your hand. Oh, well, you hate you. How many were under 10? You're killing me. Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, but guys, think about this. Let's do some context here. No internet, no Windows, no PC. We had something called DOS. I'm watching around the room. Half the room's going, ooh. And the other half's going, right? But where I'm going with this, folks, is a lot of times people are called thought leaders. You ever see that, right? Or that kind of stuff. This woman is a thought leader to me. Thought leaders think about things before others do. Thought leader, right? Look what she wrote. Read that paragraph. 1991. No internet. No laptop, no desktop PCs. I would argue many L&D teams aren't doing this yet. Yet. 2022. Right? Do this at your table for 30 seconds. 30. What words in that paragraph are the most meaningful to you? Ready? Go. Okay, give me a word. Give me a word or words. On demand. Raise your hand, on demand. Raise your hand, on demand. Nice. The interesting thing about that, you guys, is that is something you can't do for them. Because it's on demand by them. That changes your view of design, right? We don't inflict on demand. They make things on demand. What else? Another word. Integrated. Who had integrated? Good for you. Blended learning. Ahead of its time. 1991. Anything else? Sorry? Set of services. Yep. Lots of things. Services is a broad word, which is spectacular. Anything else? Oh, look at this. Look at this one. This predated chat and Teams and all those things. Guys, Gloria Geary was a COO. Not a CLO. Not a senior learning leader. She was a COO. What do OOs care about? Operations. What Gloria not want? I don't want 2 people doing one person's job. I want one person doing their job and being enabled to do it. Right? This is an enabling challenge to us as educators. My favorite word is this one, because it's job security. Right? What does that word translate to in our world? Design, curated. Right? So what Gloria was saying is, look, you L&D people, you are far from not needed. Because this sounds fairly standalone. They're not going to come, back in 91, they're not going to come to your classes anymore if they don't have to. All this stuff, she wasn't threatening us, she was challenging us to move beyond the 5 days of blah, blah, blah. Right? And she said, without you, this doesn't happen. In fact, I talked to her once after about that, and she said, look, take that word out of the sentence and read it. It's a terrifying paragraph. It's SharePoint. That's my own personal joke. All right, yes. It's orchestrated, friends. But again, it's a different orchestration than we're used to. This is a different design thing for us. So what are we going to do? We're going to talk about design now, and I got to be really careful. 31 minutes left. We teach a 4-month-long immersive course in this, friends, just to give you some perspective, where you pick a project, you build it, right? Learn while doing. What a concept. Right? I got 30 minutes, and I got more to cover than just this dot. So I want to be realistic about how deep I'm going here. But what I want you to get from this section is there are design principles like Addie had that make this work that are a bit different than we do things now. Not a ton, frankly, but a bit. So, who's seen this slide before? Who's heard of the 5 moments of need? Raise your hand. Oh, we love you people. Good. Who's never heard of the 5 moments of need? Raise your hand. Look at you. Good. Guys, this came out of when I was at Microsoft, I didn't share all that, but at one time I was the senior director of learning strategy and evangelism for Microsoft, a small software company in the northwest part of the United States, under Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer. And I was tasked with blended learning. Who knows blended learning? Raise your hand. I had a brilliant staff. PhDs, I'm not one. PhDs on my staff. We had awards to fill a building of our remarkable content. And it was, by the way, remarkable content. Right? And so we embarked on this year-long, well-funded, Microsoft, blended learning journey. And we made this remarkable stuff for our resellers and training centers around the world. There were 17,000 of them at the time. Trained around 9.5 million techs a year. Pretty cool. Bombed miserably. Miserably. Right? When we took a look at its impact, how it was doing, and I called in this brilliant man named Dr. Conrad Gottfredson, who is now my business partner. And Con said these words, Bob, this is the most remarkably designed instructional solution I've ever seen. And I'm like, okay. He goes, and it has nobody who wants to take it. And I was like, what? What? Because, yeah, no one's going to do this. I said, I know, no one's doing it. He goes, because here's the problem. You confused content with context. And you miss the need of those that this was designed for. The content's spot on. Content's spot on. But the need of the learner you want to come to this, you missed it. And he introduced me to the 5 moments, and I have never looked back. Because what I had done, friends, was everything was new and more. That's what we do. New is no clue. More is they know some stuff and want to learn more new stuff. And that's good training. And that's what I'd made. He also said, you guys, you didn't do blended learning, you did blended training. Does this sound familiar at all? 5-day courses become 2. We surround them with e-learning. Maybe flip a little bit of it. Assign a coach. Is this sounding familiar? Lipstick on a pig. Is that metaphor working for you? Right? And then, by the way, it was a remarkable, again, Con said, it's a remarkable model, but if you think you've gone to blended learning, you haven't crossed that line. Because the texts you're targeting are in the world of change, solve, and apply right now. It was an advanced course, super advanced, about applying and troubleshooting networks. That is not an upskilling thing. It's not a reskilling thing. It's a skillful thing. And we totally missed these two, and we had none of that. None of it. No performance support, no digital coach, zip. But we had a great book. We had a really good book. Right? So that introduced me to this, friends. So here's what I challenge you to do. When you go back to the stuff, when you think about your curriculum, when you think about the stuff you design, which needs are you meeting? Are you heavy on the new and more side? Are you across all 5? Are you all about apply? Because that's where it starts. This is another ground-up principle you have to learn. Common thing I hear after I give this talk are these words. Bob, I'd love to do it. My God, changed my world. But I don't got any time. Raise your hand if you have a ton of extra time to do the things that your organization, yeah, right? And I always, it breaks my heart, you guys, when I hear that, because then if that's what they're saying, then they miss one key point I'm making. You have plenty of time. You're just dedicating it to the wrong thing. Stop building more and new first. Build, apply first. This will be so painful for you when you do it the first time. But it will, guys, if it rocks your world. It rocks your world. And by the way, you'll still make training, but way less, tinier, focused, targeted. Right? You'll never have time to add this, ever. You've got to do this. And then you will add on training. And I don't mean that to minimize that. Add on. It's one of the 5 moments, and you can't apply without new and more. You can't. I get it. But remember the bar chart. Remember the mastery thing. Right? So, did you see that? I'm sorry, I want to show you this. Did you watch? Look about and watch this wiggle. Did you see it in the back? I'll do it again. Microsoft feature. All right, so that meant that was an important thing for you to see. All right. So 4 principles that I want you to learn about as I get you deeper into design. Number 1, if it's workflow learning by definition, it's got to be embedded in it. Like literally embedded. This is a physical thing. If I have to walk to a kiosk to get it, but works over here, it ain't embedded. If I have to climb under an airplane wing, you better embed it there. If I work on a medical floor, got to embed it there. If I'm a call center rep, got to embed it there. If every step or cognitive step they take away from it, it's not embedded, and the less they care about it, and the harder it is to use. Number 2, when they get there, it better be contextual for what they're trying to do. Not everything. We are an industry of piling stuff on, friends. Right? See at the top, 2 clicks, 10 seconds. This is not a abundance model. It's a minimalist model. How many of you have organizations that have a lot of stuff? Your learners have a lot of stuff. Yeah. You guys, when we go into organizations and talk about this and we talk to learners, here's their favorite thing. Stop the madness. If you're here to bring one more thing in, leave. Because it ain't that I got enough stuff. I can't find anything. And when I find it, it's not current, too much, out of date, it's too hard, wasn't the thing I wanted. If you can correct that journey for me, you're a rock star. That's the world of workflow learning and orchestrating that experience. But what I just said, folks, listen, a lot of that content I mentioned, I don't make. We are overburdened with a content business. This gets you out of that because you're going to curate content that others have made. Number 3, just enough. Just enough to get them working, get them back to work. And obviously, if it ain't trusted or curated, it doesn't work. 1 through 3 are moot if it's not correct. They get really mad if it's not correct. And they don't come back if it's not correct. Okay? So, these are logistics, not going to talk about them. This is design. Going to talk about those. Take you a little deeper. Okay? How you doing? Exhausted yet? I am. Okay. Good. Good. Design. There it is. Enable. This is the new Addy, friends. There it is in all its glory. Engage to align, analyze to design, build to implement, leverage, and evaluate. If you know Addy, it sounds kind of close. But close is not the same. Agreed? And again, what's exciting for you is if you know Addy, you're more than halfway home, frankly. But it is not, we didn't pick up Addy and plop it here and give it a new acronym. Beneath those letters are some very different things that I'm going to touch on a little bit today. Right? How many of you heard of agile stuff? I'm biased here, so I'll say that first because I've tried others, but this is the first true agile design model I've ever used as a designer. It's not waterfall. It's a currency, particularly B&L here. This is really big on the agility of the model. So, what do? Number 1, rapid workflow analysis. This is called workflow learning. So you better know what this is. You can't do anything after that. After it, you do critical skills analysis. Then you build a leap. We like acronyms in the States. You build a leap, and then you make stuff. The bottom is the churn. It's the factory. Right? I'm going to spend time on 2 of these today. A couple minutes. All right? If you get anything on this slide, I really want you to get this one. You got to get this one. 26 years ago or so, I tried to figure it out for the other day when it was, but I think it was around 26 years ago, I stood in the back of the room as a staunch ISD. Do you guys call it that here? Do you guys use ISD here? Instructional Systems Design? ISD? That's what we call ourselves in the States. Take out the S, ID, right? I'm in the back of the room watching Dr. Conrad Gottfredson do an RWA, a rapid workflow analysis, and my jaw is on the floor. And I'm like, what's he doing? Because in my mind, I'm addying, right? I'm doing Addy. I'm cranking it through, and this is not Addy. And I'm like, where's he going with this? And as he got further into it, I'm like, I know exactly where he's going. And what terrified me, friends, is as I watched him get further into it, I'm like, oh my God. I've been designing courses for 20 years and never asked half of these questions he's asking. And when he finished and he had a workflow designed to build from, I'm like, I never had that. I designed blind training. And by that I mean blind of context. Because let's go back to SMEs for a minute. Remember I talked about them earlier? Right? Interesting research on SMEs. The numbers vary, but on average, SMEs have a difficult time of remembering what it's like to not be one. They can forget up to, listen to this, 70% of the tasks needed to not be an SME and become one. 70%. So you write the course for someone who's not an SME, right? By an SME's lens of the world. And we wonder why the not SME struggles. And again, no one's being mean here, right? So here's the catch. Have your SME. You got to have the journey. You got to have the goal. You got to have the, yeah, right? But you need to also know what's happening in the trenches now that SMEs forgot. So you need a BME. 2 of them to every 1 SME. 2 to 1. You got to have 2 to 1 because the SMEs are loud and quite opinionated. You need 2 BMEs to 1 SME. What do you think a BME is? What does a B stand for? Business. Your BME is a business matter expert, meaning they're in the business right now, actually doing the job you want to have people trained on. They're not SMEs yet. They're not senior anything. They are in the trenches, living the life. Right? And of course, then you have your SME to go, yeah, but it gets but then you're going to want to go here next. Great. We want that. But when it comes to winning the day in that room, when you're doing your RWA, 2 to 1 BME to SME, because the BME has to win, because that's your learner. The SME can't win. They're not your learner. Does that make sense? They're great. You want them in there. So, what do? You start with tasks, because when people are in the workflow, they perform tasks. By the way, this is not a task. They have to understand the company policy for diversity. Did you hear what I just said? Why is that not a task? They have to understand the company policy for diversity. No, understanding isn't doing. Oh my gosh, you guys. I can't tell you how many courseware I've looked at over the years that has, in this lesson you will learn. Ever written those words? In this lesson you will learn? And one of the things the whole deal, I've even seen in this lesson you will do. And the third bullet is, understand the diversity policy for that is not a behavioral objective that Robert Mager taught us to write. Now, I get you got to know it. You can't be effective in diverse environments without understanding the policy, but that doesn't beget that you do it well. That makes sense? Compliance training. Ooh. A lot of scary people out there that have passed tests, that are compliant, but can't perform. Not being mean, they just can't. But they think they can because they got the certificate. So get me on that forklift. I'm going to be watch me in that warehouse. I'm going to be a blast. Right? How about some learn while doing there? Right? I'm going to board a plane in tomorrow. I don't want a pilot getting on a plane going, just got my certification. That e-learning was great. I mean, it's not that I mind that, but he's about to fly a plane. A little more workflow based. So you got to know tasks on average through 75 in a typical analysis. If your scope is realistic, 75. Tasks group up into processes. Tasks are made up of steps. Notice the order I went in. I'm going to go back. This first, because it's all about workflow. Get all the tasks on a whiteboard. Takes about a day to day and a half. Trying to give you metrics here. Takes about a day to a day and a half to get them all up there. And they're going to fight you. They're going to say, well, wait, before you do that, they got to understand. I know. Let's write that over here in the parking lot, because tomorrow we'll talk about supporting knowledge. Supporting knowledge is the understand to do. But we can't know if it's the right understanding unless we know what the doing is. You guys, I can't tell you how many courseware, how many books, how many classes have understanding in it with no place to hang it. Well, they just should know it. It's good for them. What does that mean, good for them? Right? That's not the business we're in. Right? And by the way, they got a lot going on up here. They're terrified. They're confused. One more nice to know thing is not good. They'll look it up later if it's nice to know. But let's get that junk out of there. right? So, process. So what do they look like? Here's an example. This is in a sales training. Anyone in here do sales training, sales or marketing training for your organization? A couple of you. Okay. This was from a live, as opposed to dead, RWA. Assess the market landscape. That was one of the groups that the group of SMEs and BMEs we had in the room agreed made up these. These were the tasks they told us. And they chunked them. You know chunking? You guys know chunking? 7 plus or minus 2? Familiar with the math, with the research? Cognitively, brain science, folks can't remember well or retain or perform 7 plus or minus 2 tasks at a time. So you get to 10, you're pushing them. Under 5, confusing them. Little is not better. A bunch of little chunks isn't helpful. 7 plus or minus, notice 6. Nice. Okay? Steps. Always have steps. Okay. That's the workflow. That's what they look like. This is an example one. I'm going to show you an example in a moment of a digital coach for this one. This was done for auditors. Anyone here do auditing or support auditors? All right, this was an auditing process from this organization. You may look at that and go, that's nothing like our auditing process. That's okay, because your workflow is different than others. Can't tell you how many companies we go into, friends, that have done business process analysis. Familiar with this at all? I'm watching your faces. At the corporate level, that should terrify you. And I'm asked to come in and do this work. And they go, no, we've already done that. We got a bunch of these. And here's my favorite thing. Let's just be sure they're right. Give me a day. Give me a day. One day. And let's just compare. 99 times out of 100, not even close. Not even close. The work done in the field to the process corporate hopes is followed. Nope. You got to know what the field does. Now, there's some conversation whether it's right, legal, or deadly. I get that. But you got to have the conversation. I can't tell you how many times I've been in the room and the SVP of sales and they're going, what? You're doing what? Yeah, that's what we have to do to sell. I don't want you doing that. Or that's illegal. Or, but guys, you have to have a platform to have that conversation because it's happening. It's going on. That's a task being performed. So, you have that, and now critical skills. You've got all of your tasks in 75 some odd things. You've got them grouped into groupings. They are flowing like the workflow, and you have to figure out what you're teaching or not. Remember the classroom shrinking by half? Remember shrinking by half? You have to have a way to decide that. You don't just cut half the content. You have to have a way to decide what's targeted. Anyone know where that is? Yeah, it's here. It's for you guys. It's Trafalgar Square on a beautiful blue sky day. Right? My dear friend was in Trafalgar Square 20-some-odd years ago, and he stumbled on these books. Dr. Gottfredson is a PhD in instructional psychology and technology. There were 16 of these books in a rack. He couldn't believe someone had written these. Look at this thing. That's terrifying to me. Look at that. Learn yoga in a weekend. Learn to sail in a weekend. Learn to scuba dive. It was unbelievable. He couldn't believe it. He bought all 16 books. Put them in his bag. He's got an 11-hour flight back to Salt Lake City where he lives. Kind of a weekend. Pretty fast reader. Gets on the plane, decides, I'm going to land, and I'm going to be a scuba diver. Always wanted to scuba dive. Gets the book out, starts reading, couple pages in, comes to that word. Goes, ooh. That looks terrifying. So like every good book, he looks in the back and looks it up. Not helpful. But at the end of that last word are these two words. And Khan goes, ooh, oh. And he closed the book and said, this book might help me to mastery. Sound familiar? I don't know if it's going to help me to competency. Right? And he invented a remarkable tool that makes workflow learning and the new blend work. Without it, you won't get there. You'll have a lot of workflows. You'll have a lot of tasks. But you'll still have a lot of 5-day classes. Because you're still in the cover it mode, right? We have to defend what and where. And Khan came up with this remarkable tool, the critical skills rubric. Look at the 7. Look at a 1. what Kahn realized is all content that's covered, the way you cover it should not be dictated by, here's the word, importance, which is SME's favorite word, by the way. SMEs thinks what are important? Everything, correct. They think everything, and by the way, everything is. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about trying to get people to performance, and I want to use my training time for the most optimal things that people should spend in training doing. Because I'm going to have a digital coach, I'll show you in a moment, that helps them when they're not. Remember, I'm not covering it just in mastery. I'm covering it in transfer and sustain with an intentional design and a tool, just like a classroom is a tool. So anything that's a 1 to 4, I ain't teaching. Why would I? If they learn it by doing, guess what? They learn it better than a classroom could ever teach them. Think about your life, friends. What's the best teacher in life? Experience. By the way, sometimes it stinks. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it's embarrassing. Right? It's not always fun and, flowers. But boy, when you emerge at the other end, you have learned like you could never learn another way, correct? What we have to be careful of here, though, is it can't kill you in doing it. Right? So anything a 5 or higher, I'm going to teach. But I'm still, look at all you cameras, but I'm still going to give you this. See the bold words? And by the way, when I teach you, I'm not just going to teach you the 5, 6, and 7s. I'm going to teach you how to use it with a digital coach. And I'm going to make you fail. And I'm going to make you get out of it on your own with your digital coach. Because in an hour or two or a day or two or whatever, you leave me. You leave the line of mastery, and I want you enabled to find the 4s or others or survive through your 5s and 7s when you hit them on your own. It terrifies me, friends, how many learners I sent to some scary environments without the right support they should have had. Not on purpose, but I did it for years when all I did was training. So, hard skills and soft skills. All right, I want to show you this issue of soft skills. Competencies. Raise your hand if you heard of that word before. Oh, that's hurt us so badly. The only reason it's hurt us is because if you talk to people, I'll pick on leadership if you don't. How many people do leadership training? Raise your hand if you do leadership training. I'm going to pick on leadership training for a bit because the number one complaint about leadership is I can't go back and do it. I struggle going back to the trenches and leading with the 2 weeks I spent with you learning the 7 pillars of leadership, or whatever you want to call them. Right? And yeah, you role played, and guys, you did all good. You did all the stuff you should have done in training. I get that, but training ain't the workflow. When I come in after 2 days of being out, and I'm onslaughted with work, and I got to figure out how empathy fits into that, or listening skills, or diffusing a difficult situation, which I learned in a wonderfully safe, comfortable environment for 2 weeks with you. But now I'm in the workflow, and everything's coming at me. Leaders have tactical stuff to do. Unless you hang a understanding on a doing, remember earlier, it's lost. If you don't hang an understanding on doing, it is lost. And for too long, we've not hung soft skills on doing, and it has been lost. So this was the soft skills. This is from a real example in a company, and they also had work to get done. They had to run their, this is for regional sales managers. What we did, see those arrows? See them right there? We attached the soft skills of building a team to the tactical day of working. That little line was never there. And we gave them a cool coach like this. I'm going to show it to you in a moment live. And they had culture stuff to do. All right? So here's the soft skill stuff. Soft skill has tasks, friends. Leaders don't come in and say, I'm going to think about empathy today. I'm going to think about listening skills today. No. You come in and you have to do them. These are all doing. And they are attached to the work. That's the work side. Sorry for the font. You'll get the slides later. Right? And then we made that. So, let me show you 2 digital coaches. I'm going to show you one for hard skills, if you will, procedural stuff, and I'm going to show you the one I just showed you. What's a digital coach do? This, 2 clicks, 10 seconds, just in time what's needed in the form, enables effective, safe performance, meets all 5 moments, and it follows this architecture. It is a minimalist model, friends. When people come in through the context of the workflow, they are not greeted with, in this lesson you will learn. Because you're in the lesson at the time. You're working. So they're greeted with the things to do in the context of that task. Right? If that's not enough, I'll give you more. If that's not enough, I'm going to give you a whole lot more. A whole lot more. SharePoint sites, LMS stuff. These tools link out digitally to these environments and bring them right into one place for your learners. I love this. You hear this used a lot. One single source of truth. Right now I got 9 in my company. And I don't trust half of them either, by the way. They're not very truthful. Right? Right? So let me show you. I'm going to show you 2. See this? This is that auditing one. Hard skill, very procedural. So think about the pyramid. I'm at the top of context. I'm coming in today, I'm going to do this. And by the way, notice, it's not linear. Circles, arrows, back and forth, dependencies. This isn't simple. Workflows are not simple. So I click on this. I'm going to go to my first one. There's one click. And I'm taken to a sub-process. Processes often have sub-processes. Notice the breadcrumbing. I came here and went there. This is supposed to be a thumbnail. Didn't load. Sorry about that. I can maybe get it to do it if I click one more time. We have internet in here that everyone's trying to use. See if I can get it. There it is. See the breadcrumbing? Red square. I'm here. I'm doing this today. I'm going to develop scope and objective. I click on that. 2 clicks. And now I am in this part. Here, here. And guess what? Think of the pyramid. Steps. Steps. Tasks. I don't know how to do 3. A lot of people say, what if this is great if they're advanced learners, what if they're beginning learners? This step may be too general for them. Well, guess what? Watch. I click on that and I get sub-steps. Detailed steps. If I don't need them, I don't see them. Minimalist model. I'll finish the pyramid and wrap up. What if in the middle of that I don't know what scope means? Remember the understanding to do? The next thing was the abouts. So I click on this, and sure enough, here's scope. Not the steps, but the definition of scope. So I can get the understanding to go back to the work and keep going. I'll finish real fast. What about references? They had these. These actually link out to actual PDF. It was a 1,000-page PDF, 1,000-page that changed weekly, if not quarterly. Those links on the right went right to the chapter and verse in the PDF, right to the page paragraph, not the front page of the 1,000. And then you can see examples, job aids, FAQs. Let me show you real quick. Where am I? There I am. Here's the leadership one. Remember this one? I'll stay on the soft skills side because this is the part. But let's say I'm growing personally, I hope. One click. There's the steps. I can blow them out if I want to. I can go over to the abouts. SMART goals. I can look for references. Myers-Briggs. But all of these have to do with this. Just personal growth. The task I am in. One minute. You guys look terrified. Okay. Remember this? Remember this? We did all this to it. We put it through RWA, CSA, the whole deal. Two days, 75 slide. A lot less people died. That was the metric. How's that for an ROI? Right? But the reason I love ending this slide, you guys, is because I've been pushing the digital coach. I've been pushing everything from transfer and sustain. I get that. But I start out by saying what I love about this model is it saves training. It makes training do what it's supposed to do. Look, from 90% lecture to 75% experiential. Practice, failure, trial and error in a safe place where they don't die doing it. So, what can help you? We are really proud to announce that in the last year we've opened up a 5 Moments of Need Academy right in your backyard in the UK. If you're interested in this as an ID, you can take a 3-month-long course on it. And boy, you'll get more RWA than you care for, right? But what I like about the course is the way we designed it, because we felt we had to, was you have to come to class with a project. And when you're done, you leave with a project built, right? Or all of this. Con and I, a year ago, released an ebook on all this. We took the blogs that Con and I have been writing, the podcasts we've been hosting, the many of you we've met over the years, the research we've done, and we put it into a digital book, an ebook, and we just released our version 2 of it yesterday. It's free. Over 180 pages long, links to things. This is in there. Tons of stuff is in there. How you doing? Hope it was helpful. Enjoy the rest of the conference. I'll be around. Thanks so much for your patience and your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. So many ideas, so many good things to think about there. I'm sure you're going to have to go away and digest all that, along with your lunch, which that's next, all right? So make your way downstairs to the concourse, buy what you want. We don't care. But thanks again, Bob. Bob, the human dynamo. Thank you.
Slides. Oh, darn it. Sorry, bud. I do have a book up in front if you want to sign up with your email. If you want to get the slides, I know the conference will do that too, and there's a recording and stuff. There's also some lag sometimes. I want to be sure you're getting moment of need support here, friends, right? So if you want them sooner, there's a book up in front. Sign up. I'd be happy to get them to you in the next day or by the end of the conference, frankly, if it's helpful. Thanks again, friends. Enjoy.